Hi, my name's Phil Jump. I'm the Baptist Minister for the Northwestern Association here in the UK. And whether you're connected with one of our churches or whether you found this video in some other way, first of all, I hope you're okay and managing to cope with what are some quite unprecedented circumstances both in our own nations and in the world at the moment. I realise that many people watching this video will either be in self-isolation or perhaps at home with family and having to adjust, having to live life quite differently to what you're used to. And for many people, that's also going to mean not going to church for the next few weeks, which for many Christians will be the absolute focal point of their sense of identity and their sense of what it means to be a follower of Jesus. And so we're going to need to find other ways of keeping in touch with one another. We're going to need to find other ways of keeping our faith and our sense of fellowship alive. And I'm putting these short videos together just as one tool to help you and to help church leaders stay in touch and just think perhaps in different ways about how you relate to God, how you pray, how you grow as a Christian disciple at this time. It's interesting because for many Christians, going on retreat, a time of isolation, a time of solitude, can be actually something that we take quite a lot of trouble to achieve. So in some ways, while we don't in any way make light of the current circumstances, this could also be seen as an opportunity that perhaps you wouldn't normally get to pray, to reflect, and to get to know God in perhaps a deeper or a different way. And if you're trying to do that at the moment, you're in really good company, because as you look at the Bible, we realise that quite a few of the big figures in our scriptures also had and learnt important things when they were on their own with God. Take the example of Elijah, the Old Testament prophet. We read about some of the great things he did. He was used to playing on a big stage. He was used to talking with royalty and being a real mover and shaper. But there were also moments in his life when he just needed to get away from it all, when he needed to be on his own. And we read one story in the book of Kings of how he finds himself in a mountain cave and he is desperately seeking God's presence. And he finds that presence, not in the earthquake, not in the wind, not in the fire, but in the simple stillness of the solitude in which he hears God's voice. Or in the New Testament, the book of Revelation is written by John. And why and how does he write that book? Well, because he's on his own in isolation. He's been arrested because as part of the persecution of Christians at the time. And he finds himself in the penal colony of Patmos. And it's there on what he describes as the Lord's Day, when he can't be with the churches that he's used to serving, when he can't be with the people he loves to be with. It's there on his own that he catches a vision of the presence of God and the risen Christ that has inspired hymns and poems for generations of Christians since. So you may be on your own, but God can still be with you. Jesus, Emmanuel, God is with us. That's what his name means. And part of the story of his coming into the world, his incarnation, as we call it, places him in a stable, places him in another situation of chaos and isolation. And part of the message of that is God can find us anywhere. The writer of the Psalms speaks of trying to escape from God's presence in the depths, trying to escape from God's presence in the heights. But even there, you will find me, he says. So during this time of isolation, maybe put some time aside each day to pray and to reflect, to spend some time reading and meditating on God's word. Maybe listen to some music or just take some time to look inside yourself and see what God might be saying to you at this time. And while you're taking care of yourself spiritually and emotionally, look out for your neighbours. Maybe give a phone call to someone that you might not normally connect with, just to see that they're okay too. This is a time to take care of one another. But I pray that in this time of isolation, of being on our own, of having to do things differently, that we might all discover God in new ways. Thanks for listening.